Welcome back viewers, ladies, gentlemen, non-binaries and anyone with ears or other sound detection organs. Hope you enjoy. We are continuing with Going Native, written by Uncle Sealing. Going Native, Chapter 32. Nurse Jeoe took a peek into room 127. Both the human and the marine were asleep, the woman on her side with one arm protectively wrapped around the man. She had to smile. Humans made their way to the hospital occasionally, sometimes from exposure after the idiots tried to hide in the woods and forget the reality of being part of the Imperium. To a man, and they were usually men, they were always combative, rude, and casually abusive to the doctors and nurses trying to save their lives. But not this one. This Eustace Grant was polite and gentle, even if he did seem a bit simple. He was in easily the worst shape Jeoe had ever seen a human in, and he was still pleasant to everyone who spoke to him. It was refreshing. And then there were the rumors. From what Jeoe had heard, this human had been lost in the woods for years. They didn't even have much in the way of records for him. He had been scrabbling around, living by himself, eating roots and bugs until a ship crashed and the marine had found him. They had rescued Eustace and brought him to the hospital after some harrowing heroics. It was like a storybook. Granted, the rescued prince in a storybook usually had all his bits and was a little younger, but that's what you got for realism. Still, everyone in the hospital seemed taken with the little guy. Ian was having trouble adjusting to his new home. The two humans, their relationship with Marion, the strange surroundings, hearing about the threat from the interior, Marion quitting her job, it was all too much. Ian had figured that when he made it out of the cabin, everything would go back to normal. Sure, he'd have Ella and Stace, but everything with Marion would be simple and familiar. But no, just as he was sure he had changed, so had she. He couldn't blame Marion or the humans, but he would have to adjust. One night sleeping in a pile with Marion and the Sams wasn't going to do it. He had to make himself fit into this new situation so he didn't feel like the fourth wheel on a tricycle. He had to take charge, feel more like himself again. He knew what he had to do. Ian decided that the little room in the basement, which would be claustrophobically small if not for all his time in the cabin, would be his staging area. All of Ian's luggage was down there, still packed away. Opening the smallest of the cases, he began to collect his tools. Shampoo. Pre-conditioner rinse. Conditioner. Post-conditioner rinse. Body wash. Body scrub. Face scrub. Genital scrub. Moisturizer. Volumizing facial moisturizer. Hand and foot moisturizer. 3 loofahs, since he liked to keep his face and groin loofahs separate from his body. 1. Nail brush. Nail file. Nail scissors. Nail polish. Nail varnish. Tweezers for the eyebrows and any other loose hairs out of place. Toothbrush. Sonic pick. Tusk brush. Equipment arrayed, Ian checked the temperature of the shower and began his work. Samuel stretched as he slumped his way down the stairs. Ian had joined them in the bedroom the night before, but everyone was so exhausted by the events of the day that they had all just sort of collapsed in a pile. Marion had ended up so protectively wrapped around the guy that nobody else had a chance to cuddle with either of them. That was okay, though. The family had to warm up to each other. As he turned the corner into the kitchen, scratching his chest idly, Samuel saw Sammy on their hands and knees, scrubbing the tile with a stiff brush. It was so unexpected that he stopped. They looked up, panic in their brilliant green eyes. Run. Save yourself. Samuel turned to escape but nearly slammed straight into a figure he hardly recognized. Ian was immaculately dressed in close-fitted dark slacks and a cream-colored shirt that clung at the chest and arms but flared subtly at the wrists and was short enough to show just a hint of firm, muscular abdomen. His skin was a smooth, clear lilac and the chain connecting an ear cuff to a tusk sparkled in the light as he moved. Iing's hair was puffed up and glossy in a complicated style that clearly required a lot of work. A well-manicured hand came up, glossy nails the color of a clear morning sky, and pressed against Samuel's chest, stopping him in his tracks. "Oh no you don't. These countertops are filthy and I'm not living in a cesspool." Samuel dropped his eyes, feeling his ears start burning in shame. "We've been busy." Being busy is no excuse for being disgusting. When we're done with the kitchen we're cleaning up the observatory. I don't know how you can stand it, the whole room reeks of sweat. Sam looked around, hoping for an out. "Where's Marion?" Apparently, this was the wrong thing to ask because Sammy let out a moan. "Marion is taking out the garbage, since apparently you three have been living on instant meals and the garbage cans were overflowing with junk food wrappers. Do you have any idea how much sodium is in those things? And here I had been hoping that the two of you would at least be a positive influence, but apparently Marion's bad habits have just found fertile soil here." Samuel just stood there, unsure of what to do. Iing solved this by leaning over the shorter human, grabbing his shoulders, and spinning him around. A quick pat to the arse and Sam made his way to the countertop and started scrubbing. "When this place is a little better shape, we are going into town. We need proper food and I am desperately in need of a hairstylist. Celia is supposed to be coming today for the data we don't have. We should be getting ready for that. I don't care if the Empress herself is coming to award you a medallion of distinguished service. We are going to get this scientific hovel back into a proper shape." Celia Merrick was feeling desperate. Her world seemed to be crumbling around her and she was running out of options. She had been planning to solve the mystery of the goddess's pockets and bask in the adulation of her peers, but instead that. Sammy had put her in such a precarious situation that she had to turn to option B. Her ultimatum to House Chelsea was received coldly, but that was to be expected. Their assistance would get her out of the financial troubles Sammy's research had put her in and back into the clear, at least it would if House Chelsea knew what was good for them. And thinking of ultimatums, today was the day of her deadline to the planetarium stooges. Apparently they had wasted her generosity by finding that cunt's husband instead of getting her the evidence she needed. She would get rid of Marion and her stiff as an example to the humans, then force the rest of what she needed from them. Unless this little meeting went well. Then she could just get rid of all of her loose ends. The nurse at the front desk was appropriately cowed by Celia flashing her badge and led her to the room she could find the shuttle survivor in. When they got there, the nurse stopped in front of the door, about to say something, but Celia wasn't going to have it. She just shoved the nurse to the side and pushed her way in. It was a surprisingly nice room. On Celia's left was the bed, with, whoa. What had happened to that guy? At least he was asleep. He was on the older side of what Celia would consider attractive and the human facial hair was weird, but she could probably work with that. All the missing pieces weren't even a deal breaker, really. Would just make him easier to handle. Still, couldn't get distracted. The real reason she was there was the Marine sitting in a chair next to the bed, looking at an older, battered-looking omnipod. Ella Helium. Survivor of the explosion and General Meathead Marine. Should be easy to grill her for information. Ella started to stand up, but Celia waved her badge with one hand and motioned for the Marine to stay seated with the other. "At ease, I'm just here to ask a few questions." Celia stepped between Ella and the bed, then sat down on the edge of it between the Marine and the human. "You're Ella Helium, former pod captain?" "Thor." "Yes." The Marine let out a sigh. "That's me. I want to know exactly what happened at the space station." The Marine shrugged. Actually shrugged. "I don't know what happened. I was sitting in a transport craft and everything shook and went crazy. Next thing I knew I was waking up in a cabin in the woods. Once I was there we go back. The cabin's not important. I need to know about the station explosion. This was off to a rough start, but that was okay. Celia always got what she wanted out of people, one way or another. I really don't know anything about it. No windows in that section of the shuttle. The Marine tilted her head. Are you sure you don't want the whole story? No. Stick to the important things. What were you doing at the station? Standard resupply. Nothing unusual. Turok's shit. Something unusual happened, or a cargo ship wouldn't have exploded. This wasn't going well. Celia's plans were coming apart, but that was only because this bitch wasn't cooperating. A cargo ship? Then there might not have been anything on the station involved at all. Celia's nostrils flared as she leaned forward, eyes narrowing. You shut your mouth unless I am asking you a question, Marine. I don't need your speculation, I need the truth. The Marine's face darkened with anger. You know, I don't think I caught your name. You don't need to know who I am, you need to give me answers. You are going to tell me what I want to know, or things will get very bad for you. Celia flexed the fingers on her right hand, making sure she was nice and limber. You don't want to know what the interior can do to you, or to your friend? Ella's eyes widened and she glanced around Celia to check on the human. The panic there was a nice change. Now then. What did you see? Who planted the explosives? Celia's voice was raised and she knew in a detached way that she had lost her cool, but this Marine had to know something. She had to. I have no idea, and if you don't have any other questions you should leave. And stop shouting, this is a hospital not a parade ground. Ella was just being stubborn again. The Marine tried to stand up, but Celia pushed out her hand and shoved Ella back down into the chair. Celia stood up instead, leaning over Ella menacingly and raising her voice even higher. You know what? I think you do know. You're just working against me like everyone else. No matter. Once I put a couple new holes in your little slut over there, I'm sure you'll be more cooperative. Celia reached for her pistol, confident that waving a gun around would get her some answers, and had a single moment of confusion as her hand closed above an empty holster before her world exploded into a white nimbus of pain.
2 hours later.
Before she interviewed the Marine and whatever exactly Celia was, the inspector wanted to talk to the human. She always dreaded talking to humans during the job. Granted, they were usually some sort of terrorist and she was doing some sort of less than polite interrogation, but still it was never simple. While she travelled to the hospital, the inspector had called ahead, spoke to the staff, skimmed medical records. She learned from them that this particular human was curious, kind, and pleasant to talk to. Never anything less than polite and attentive, even if he didn't seem to be all there or always understood what was going on around him. No animosity towards Shilvati or, really, anybody. He had some sort of mild brain damage and a history of causing serious self-injury and then hiding it, which had also informed her decisions. If everything went well today, she would be able to aid the interior, get rid of a nuisance to her house, and even do a good deed. The first thing she noticed when she walked into the hotel room was the blood. The human, she took a moment to remind herself that he liked to be called Stace, was practically painted with a bright red smear down the front of his hospital gown where it had pooled from a severe nosebleed. The entire lower half of his face was covered with it, and as she entered the room he opened a single red bloodshot eye to watch her. His other eye was covered with a blue medical patch. She took a moment to take in the rest of him, the missing pieces of leg and foot, the arm immobile in a sling, the wires and tubes attached to him, the blotchy and peeling skin. The only limb that was visible was his left arm, which had been handcuffed to the bed frame. He was like a battered and broken pet that was found wandering the streets. This wouldn't do at all. The inspector went over to the attached bathroom, grabbed a towel, moistened it liberally in the sink, and came over to sit on the bed next to the human. "Hello. My name is Inspector Jelsi Chelza." She began to use the towel to carefully wipe the blood off of Stace's face. "Your name is Big," Stace mumbled, his voice muffled by the quickly reddening towel. "Oh, it's not just my name. It's also my title." The human looked like he was racking his brain for a moment before he replied, "Inspector is name of your job." "That's right. Inspector is my job, Jelsi is my given name, and Chelza is my family name. Most people call me Inspector Chelza." He seemed to think about that for another moment. "My name is Eustace Grant. People who are nice to me call me Stace. I don't have a job. Not now." He sounded so sad when he said that. "Friends call me Jill, so how about I call you Stace and you can call me Jill? Does that sound good?" Stace nodded, a motion she could feel through the towel as she managed to finish getting his face halfway presentable. "Yes, Jill. That sounds nice." Jelsi took a moment to remove a key from her pocket and unhook the manacle from Stace's hand. The poor guy probably didn't even know what was going on. As soon as it was off, Stace stretched his hand, flexing the wrist, and offered the hand out for her. It was a human gesture she was familiar with, and while she could just accept the handshake, Jelsi thought maybe she could form a better connection with him by helping him learn. "No, Stace, we shall do it like this." She gently took his hand, closed it and turned it so he was offering a fist, then touched her own fist to it. Stace blushed and lowered his eyes a little. "Sorry. I can't. You forgot." "Yes. I did that." He smiled prettily, revealing startlingly clean teeth. Jelsi had expected him to have far worse dental hygiene considering he had apparently been living in a mud hut and eating leaves for years. Jelsi took a moment to look at the monitor across the bed. It was showing the result of a live brain activity scan, and if he lied or was otherwise dishonest with her, it would be alerted. "So far, so good. Stace, I want you to tell me what happened in here a couple of hours ago. You have to be truthful and tell me everything. It's very important. Can you do that?" He nodded. "I am in trouble." "Is that lady hurt bad?" "I tried not to." "You shot her." "Of course she is hurt. But she is alive." "I tried to, not kill but only pain." Stace's face scrunched up. "I did not want her to die." "Well, that answered one very important question." It was a little piece of data by itself, but it spoke to a sort of cunning on the human's part. "How about we start at the beginning? We will talk about that part when we get to it." Stace nodded. "I woke up, lady had sat on the bed. She was angry. Wanted Ella to tell her what happened." "What?" He almost looked like he was in pain, whole face worked up into a frown. Jelsi glanced at the monitors and saw that he was clearly working hard, trying to sort things out. Finally, he raised his arm and pointed straight up. "Up there." Jelsi nodded. "The space station explosion." "Yes. That." Stace gave her another bright smile. Ella did not know. Was already in the boat. So what happened next? Ella wanted to know the woman's name and job but she would not say. The woman got angry. Was like a pistolero. "What do you mean?" "I don't know that word." Stace thought for a few moments. "Like someone who shoots people as a job." He held his arm out at his side, then wiggled his fingers and made motions like he was about to draw a pistol. I do not think she knew she did it. Celia was preparing to draw a weapon and the human noticed it. He was clever. So what did you do? I took the gun from her. I moved slow. Then I made it not kill. How did you know what to do with the gun? Elora showed me once. How to make a Shilvati gun safe. That was smart of her if she was spending a lot of time with this human. Jelsai was starting to like the Marine. I know safe and I know kill. I picked the one. He held his forearm up vertically. Safe. Then he moved it until it was horizontal. Kill. Finally, Stace swung his arm back up so it was at a 45-degree angle between the two. This one. The middle. Yes. He smiled warmly. The middle. And then you shot her. No, I waited. Did not want to shoot unless she was bad. Then she stood up and said she was going to hurt me. What did she say exactly? Do you remember, Stace? Said she was going to make holes in me. Said I was a slut. What does that word mean? Jelsai let out a cough, covering her mouth with one hand and trying to hide a very non-professional blush while she tried to decide how to address that. It was just a rude name for you. Don't worry, Stace, you're not a slut. Thank you. I still did not shoot after she said that. I waited for her to try to take out the gun. Jelsai checked the screen. No lie there. Stace had disarmed Celia when she seemed threatening, switched the pistol to stun, then waited to see her next move. When Celia went to draw the weapon, Stace acted to protect himself. Pretty clear-cut. The back blast from a point-blank stun explained the bloodshot eye and the bloody nose. Do I go to jail now, Jel, or after the hospital? Of course, this was the big question. By all accounts, Stace should be pulled into custody, interrogated, then thrown away for attacking a member of the Shilvati military. Except as a controller, there was absolutely no reason for Celia Merrick to be in Denver, 1,600 kilometers from her post, interrogating a pod captain. Then there was the badge. Merrick had been waving around a real badge and claiming to be part of the interior. Trying to search her credentials revealed not much. No record of her attending the academy, but her actions over the last few months and years, looking back through her history, wouldn't be possible without her having interior-grade clout. It was frustrating. Celia Merrick was going to have to be questioned, and not necessarily gently. Inspector Jelsai Chelza was looking forward to it. Jelsai inspected the human's face. No fear, just simple earnestness. No, you're not going to jail. That lady was being very bad and you were just protecting yourself and Elora. You can't go shooting people, though, okay? Shooting people is bad. Stace nodded. Shooting people is very, very rude. He gave Jelsai a grin and the two laughed. Okay, I think that answers all of the questions I had. Now I have a gift for you. An eyebrow quirked up in confusion. No, jail is already a gift. Reaching into her pocket, Jelsai pulled out an ID card on a lanyard and held it out to Stace. Do you know what this is? He looked at it critically before raising his hand to point at his picture. That is me. I can't. He pointed at the words. I can't do that. Oh. He couldn't read. Jelsai used one finger to point out the sections on the card. This is you, and here it has your name, Eustace Grant, and when you were born. It's so everybody knows that you are you. Stace's finger moved. But why Elora? Across from Stace's picture was an image of Elora Helium along with all of her information. It's so if something happens to you, if you get lost or hurt, people will know that you're hers. So Elora can come and help. Stace blushed. Like, married. Even though she tried to hold it in, a laugh still squeaked out of Jelsai before she was able to control it. No, not quite like being married. It just means that she is in charge of taking care of you. It says so right here. Jelsai pointed to the section of the card that said dependent, medical stewardship. We will even give her some money so she can take care of you. Doesn't that sound good? The human gave a small nod. Thank you, Jel. You are very nice to me. You're welcome, Stace. If you have any problems, you let me know, okay? She put the lanyard over Stace's head, then gave his hair a quick ruffle before she made her way out of the room. End of chapter. If you enjoyed, like, subscribe, click the bell so you don't miss any episode and do all the other YouTube stuff. Visit and support the author, and I'll see you next time. If you didn't enjoy, comment on what I can do better. And as usual, have a wonderful day.